Hello, folks. Welcome back to Path to Recovery podcast. Episode 11, we're talking responsibility and forgiveness. So right now, folks, we've given a lot of information about what it means to be an addict, what it takes to start transitioning out of it, focusing on our belief system, as well as understanding clearly our responsibility in things. So today's podcast, we're going to be dealing with more direct approach to the responsibility factor, accountability, and above all is forgiveness. In order for us to heal, we have to apply these three things to make sure that we're on the right path to recovery. So we're essentially trying to stop our excuses from happening. It's time to stand up and take responsibility in the fact that we, ourselves, have created our own situation. Nobody else has, and nobody else will. There's no pointing fingers or blaming others. There's no deflecting or allowing anyone other than ourselves to be the controllers of our lives. If we're addicted to drugs, we decided to do drugs and to stay doing them. If we're addicted to attention from others, we've decided that we require that kind of attention. If we're addicted to eating, we decided that our overeating was necessary. If we're addicted to cursing, then we've basically decided that cursing was our way of expressing our thoughts. And if we're addicted to silence, then we decided somewhere along the lines that we wanted to be alone. Each decision that we've made was driven by our beliefs that we require addiction to either make us happy or to ignore life's challenges or to simply mask the pain. When we blame others or shame ourselves for the actions we've taken in life, we're essentially hiding from the truth that trying to make ourselves feel better or at least not feel as bad. Taking responsibility for our actions and choices is a major part of healing from our addictions. Accepting that our decisions brought us to where we are, not someone else's words or actions. Being accountable for what we say or do is part of the healing process, and it will bring us down the path to recovery. So what is the difference between responsibility and accountability? A lot of people think they're essentially the same thing, but there's enough of a difference that it's important to know the difference. Responsible means that you're liable to be called as the primary cause or the motive behind something. You are the one that created something. Accountable means that we have an obligation or willingness to accept the responsibility for what we've done. Being accountable means that you're basically willing to be responsible for things that happened or thoughts that we might have had. Now, with that in mind, we get to dig deeper into ourselves to find the truth behind our actions or behind our words. And in order to begin our healing, we need to be responsible for those thoughts and actions, meaning, essentially, that we need to recognize that we, ourselves, create our own situation and that we are the only ones who can fix what has happened. Being accountable means that we're going to begin to step up and take on the challenge that we are the cause of our actions and that we can learn to represent properly and lovingly a good human that is not addicted to things, especially those that create an unhealthy life. Taking responsibility also means that we do not need to blame ourselves for what has taken place. Blaming is a negative attack on ourselves or on others and can lead us into a much, much deeper level of pain. Blaming or shaming are two very hurtful thoughts that are completely unnecessary in the healing process and is definitely not necessary in our daily lives. When we can take responsibility and become accountable for our own thoughts or actions, we will never again have the need to use blame or shame. So here's a quote from me a few years back when I was writing the booklet, Responsibility and Forgiveness. I blamed my ex-wife for our problems in our marriage and considered myself the innocent one. It took years, but I became accountable for my actions and learned to know that I created those situations through the years with her, and that we are both responsible for the dissolution of our marriage. At the beginning, it was, she made it this way. Because of what she did, we're getting a divorce. Because I can't tolerate it, because I can't handle it, I don't know how to cope with her, we're getting a divorce. Then it became, I know my part in it. I know that I was a cause. I know that she wasn't losing her mind and behaving that way without some sort of action on my part. So it was very important for me to be able to grab a hold of that accountability and take up the responsibility for my own actions. So can we heal together? Just like every other podcast, we say it's a group effort, folks. As you progress through your path to recovery, you're going to recognize that when you heal yourself, you're going to be healing others. Because as a better you, that creates a better relationship with others. And together, we are definitely learning to be wonderful human beings filled with compassion and love, and who take steps to bring goodness to ourselves and especially to others. When you think about it, if we're healing others, those others in turn are healing us. And we are never alone in our journey down the path to recovery, folks. So let's begin taking responsibility. We've got to know that when we blame or shame, that it's time to be responsible. As soon as we catch ourselves throwing some sort of blame or shame at someone or something or even ourselves, it's imperative that we recognize that it's time to be responsible for our part in whatever it was, just like I had mentioned before. Turn on the responsibility switch and just step up. The power of being responsible is as simple as turning it on. Flip the switch, step up, be accountable, be responsible, and behave accordingly. Take on the responsibility of your words. What do you say? Why did you say it? Be responsible for what you said and how you behave. You've got to be responsible for everything that you do, including your addiction. No one did this to us but us. Now, we can't expect to change overnight. We've had a podcast about it. There's another podcast that I have, Cognitive Awareness. Take a look at that one. It's things are lifelong, folks. So don't expect to be snapping your fingers and everything's all honky-dory. We need to work to heal. If we change the direction that we're headed, we get to see the path to recovery and how it becomes clearer. Recognizing our responsibility in our daily decisions and our actions will be a key to becoming healthy. It's also going to be a key to being free of our addictive behaviors. The next part of this is begin the process of forgiving. Forgiveness is going to be a catalyst for your healing. Understand that we need to forgive ourselves before we forgive others, knowing that our responsibility and accountability relies on our forgiving ourselves for blaming or shaming ourselves for the actions that we've taken or the thoughts that we had. We forgive ourselves because when we made those choices or decisions, we were not in our healthy place or a healthy state of mind. So how can we expect to heal if we blame ourselves? There's a famous quote, you might have heard it, "Forgive them, they know not what they do." The person that quoted that was Jesus, as the Romans were crucifying him. While he's in the process of being crucified, he was able to recognize that they are not to blame for his crucifixion, and that God's plan for him was way beyond the human self. So when we stumble and we may recognize that moment of weakness, instead of blaming ourselves, we can say, "Look, forgive me. I know not what I do. I'm not right-minded. Forgive me. I know not what I do." Saying it is one thing, folks, but knowing it to be true is another. You have to believe it in order for it to have meaning. Believe that in that moment, we did not know what we did. At least we weren't clear enough with what we did, and that we want to change it. We say it because we recognize that moment of responsibility, and we want to change the outcome so that it can be a more healthy result. Forgiving ourselves will bring love to us, through us. Forgive me, I know not what I do. It just means that we're trying to heal. It means that we are worthy of a healthy life, filled with peace and love. But we need to change the feeling of the moment. We need to feel like we are healing by progressing in small steps and to begin changing our beliefs and the thoughts to then know what our truth is. And the truth is, we are trying to heal. And we can heal because we are worthy and deserving of it. Forgiving others is similar to the process of forgiving ourselves, but it represents a deeper desire to be responsible. Like I was mentioning before, we blame others. And we tend to do it quickly. Things like, well, if they didn't just cut me off, or you made me do it, or I would be all right if they only, did something this way, or I drink because my spouse makes me so mad. There's so many different reasons why we blame others. Be clear in that we must begin to forgive others for their actions, no matter how much pain is behind it. Okay? Just like I was saying in my quote about my marriage. I had to step up. I had to stop blaming my ex-wife for the disillusion. I had to stop blaming her and completely and clearly take on the responsibility. No matter how dark their actions may have been to us or to others, we need to forgive them and clear out the ugliness. But here's the deal, folks. You have to mean it. You can't simply say, okay, I forgive you, because that's sarcasm. That's just throwing it out there and thinking that everything's fine. If we don't mean it, it is essentially applying another mask over the situation and not healing it. We have to know that going into it, we are going to change our beliefs about forgiving people, and we are going to change our approach to life's moments. We don't have to forgive what they did. Be clear about it. It isn't what they did we're forgiving, but we need to forgive them for the love of it. We need to forgive them because we don't need to hate them, no matter how bad and how ugly it has been. Forgiveness is the key to going home. Forgive them because we would hope people would forgive us if we did the same thing, or anything. Forgive them because it will free us. So the last quote is coming from Laura Lee, the co-author of the Path to Recovery booklets series. Even after I was clean for well over 7 years, I realized at a particular point in my life that I was blaming my husband for me being miserable. I even tried to rationalize my misery by saying, if he wasn't such an ass, I could be at peace. God, if he wasn't so judgmental of everyone. The truth was, I felt he was an ass before I married him. So then why did I marry him? When I forgave myself for seeing him only as I wanted to see him, as the bad guy, he actually started to change. More precisely, my perception of the situation started to change. I made a conscious choice to marry a man who I really didn't like. It was not his fault or hers. What she was doing was stepping up and taking responsibility and being accountable for the actions that she took and the ugliness behind her marriage as well. So thank you, folks. A great start to the forgiveness concept. Our next episode, we're going to really hammer in the concept of forgiveness. We really need to know that skill set, and we're going to focus on that next time. Thank you ever so much, everybody. Remember, we're never alone in this. We have millions of people that are struggling, that are taking paths to recovery, and they're following this same process. Thank you so very much. We love you. God bless you, and we will see you on the next podcast.